Hi and welcome to this video. I'm going to go through a little bit of mechanics and roles on how to beat the last boss at Shadowmoor. And this is for range class, but it can also be for the melee classes. So I will pause the video and go back and forward a little bit in the video and show you about the mechanics and what you can do to evade a few attacks and stuff like that. So let's go on with the video and see what I have to show you. Uh, our tank likes to tank on this place, or yeah, at the back of the boss. He would dash in here and then stand on the opposite way. What happens is that our tank, if he is jumping in on the boss like that, it will always appear a red linear attack right in front of him. So, and his tentacles, he would do some tentacles that goes out like a flower, 4 of them on this side. So it's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if he jumps in from the opposite side, it will be a big linear up here, and then it will be one here, one here, one here, and one there. So always stand at a smaller degree away from mid, not standing at mid, but not standing at this way too, because sometimes if you're not in a good position, you can get a tentacle on you too. So let's see. Dash in, DPS, and if you're range, you can just stand at the. There are different markings on the ground, on the floor, so just take them as a good way to know where you should stand. Especially this circle around here, because he will do some kind of punishment attack that you can actually avoid by stepping forward and then go backwards again. Let's see. DPS the boss. It would do this linear attack that the tank is evading, and the next one will appear on this side. Like that with the tentacles. So always avoid this one by standing at the corner, at the 45 degrees away from it. If you're unlucky and you are the one at this side and you can see the red line markings, first you can see the red line markings like this. It's the same on the opposite side. And the tentacle will actually, if you're on the opposite side, it stretches all the way over here. And the next tentacle will appear right around here. So if you know that you can see this red one from on this side, it appears also on the other side. You just stand at the edge here. Not on this, but a little bit to the left of this one or to the right of that one. And you will be safe from the next tentacle that is actually really close here, that appears here, if you are on the other side. You will be safe. And also, this is the red circle AoE attack that I was talking about. If you haven't DPS'd him down enough, he would just slam this area in the mid, and there is no punishment. But if the boss is jumping to mid, this red circle AoE attack will happen again, but it will be kind of a punishment kind of effect. So the next area that you are standing on, that I'm standing on right now, will actually be the red zone that is going to be the attack will land on. So you just step forward on this place where it has already landed, and I will show you that later. So this is like a normal slam attack and nothing happens. So bam, nothing happens. I was going forward, but that's the other mechanics when the boss actually jumps to mid. And we'll see when we have reached the percentage, he will now jump to mid. Red circle appears again. But this is the punishment attack. So after this has landed, make sure that you step forward as a range and you won't get hurt by the punishment that is on this area afterwards. And at this moment, when this punishment happens, make sure that you have the cursor be the roll for the cursor being ready to grab that roll, because the one that is standing furthest away from the boss will actually get the marker for being a cursor. So if you don't want to get it, step into this circle in the punishment, be close to the boss and not the furthest person, and you will make sure that you won't get the marker, because he will select his target right after this as a cursor. He will pull the cursor person towards him, and he will pull everyone in actually, and a red AoE attack will also be at the mid close to him. So what you have to do is like F roll or uh, SS, or you can also iframe if you have time for it. You can iframe it. And in hard mode, it's very important that when you see this black pool here that appears, a tentacle will actually get out from that place later. But this pool is a really good place to like refer to if you want to be on a safe zone, because the cursor who got the curse, he will get a 180 black area thing on his side, and that 180 attack can't land on this pool. If that 180 attack lands on this pool, it will be a wipe. And also, there's something more. The Let's see here. What happens? Oh yeah. In this case, I always do an F roll. So you have to think about if this pool is behind you or not. If you do a pressing the 2 and you do an F roll backwards. I do always a back roll an F roll backwards as a warlock. So make sure you don't touch this pool. If you touch it, you will die instantly because this is hard mode. So if you're in mid here, don't SS or anything if you can see that this thing is right behind you. And right after this, the next person that is furthest away from the boss will get the bait. And the bait roll is you have to spawn one or two more of these pools for a tentacle to appear from, and these pools can't overlap. If they overlap, they will you will also wipe, and these tentacles that appears laterwards will be cut by the cutter, sharing a thread between the cursor and the cutter. So if we go through with the video, the cursor now will actually spawn the 180 area opposite side to this pool. You will see the cursor guy here with this ring above his head. He will actually be yeah, on the opposite side of this one. So make sure that you keeping a look at this guy, the cursor guy, and keeping a look at this pool. Now that you see that the red 180 attack is landing on this side, you are sure you are very certain that you're on the safe side now, because standing close to this black pool will always make sure that you're on the safe side. It can also be a 180 attack that is on this side. That means you have to move yourself over to this side. So make sure that you're either left or right from this pool. And when this has landed, he will mark the furthest person. He will look at me, the furthest person, and he will do the tentacle pool thing spawn. And in the first rotation, like at the 90-80%, it will only be one pool that spawns, and a tentacle will spawn, will appear from it, and not a second one. And you can see that the cursor guy and the cutter guy is preparing to get a lightning share. The beta guy would just bait the tentacles away from these guys because they will just attack on the furthest person, the baiter. So make sure that you don't stand close. So you get the tentacles, the red lines here, to slam on your teammates because they have to do the sharing, the cutting and stuff like that. And you will see later in the video, hopefully, that the boss will land some missiles, or I don't know what type of attacks these are, but that comes from the up from the roof, from the sky, and lands on them. You can either iframe it or just ask for a half moon blocker or freeze it, but usually you don't do that. You just iframe it yourself on any kind of any kind of way, or just face tank it. Just you will get dazed on the spot, but nothing serious will happen except if you are a cutter of or a cursor. That you should keep that in mind, that you don't get dazed for too long in this place. And you can see that a purple circle will appear here on the cursor. If we go back a little bit, that's the line cutting, that's the line cutting share. So the cursor is the one that the boss is aiming on. So the cutter and the cursor has to be close to each other to share that cutting line. So the cutter has to be inside of this purple circle to be able to get that line. If you're outside of it and this attack lands on the cursor, no kind of cutting line will appear between you. So that's really important that you think about if you get any of these roles. So now that they have shared, you will see that a line is appearing between them. The baiter continues to bait the tentacle attacks away from the teammates. And the cursor guy has to match the movement, or has to, but he has to keep being on the black area of the 180 place and try to get to the boss in mid here, and don't move from that spot, because after the cutting, the cursor and the cutter will SS backwards. One will SS backwards here, and one will like be on this guy, this place, and like SS backwards, and they will switch position. And when they have switched positions, you have to save the cutter from being in this area for too long. Later I will go through that, but let's first go through the cutting. And here comes the cutting, and you will see that they have cut the tentacles. They are preparing. You see the back, you see the wings, so he's preparing for SS backwards. And this cursor guy is also preparing for an SS attack, SS move, so he can like switch place with each other. Now that they have switched place with each other, the cutter guy, the cursor guy who was on this side, has to step on these pools where the tentacles were on. And the cutter guy who is in the 180 black area now is going to bait the red linear attacks that appears 2 times on both sides, on both the black and on this safe zone side. So it's better to have him in mid. If you have him in mid, you will always be certain that the attacks will land right here, because a new 180 attack will also land, depending on where this cutter guy is standing. So first of all, the cursor guy has to step in these pools, and the cutter guy has to bait these liners attacks. And you can see that it's a bit reddish here. It's because the next 180 attack is also appearing depending on where this cutter guy was. And he's standing right in front of him, and that's why the pizza is quite accurate on the 180. If he is standing like, let's say here, the pizza will actually land 180 degrees like this way. So make sure that if you are the cutter guy who has switched place with a cutter, with a cursor, you stand right in front of him, so the 180 lands on around the same place. Because if it lands on the teammates, it will kill the teammates. Bam, it landed again. And now you have to prepare for a stun attack or a KD attack, a CC attack on this boss, and we usually stun it. And after that, you have to save this cutter guy in mid because he can't stand in this 180 black area for too long. So you have to get close to this guy, share that purple, light the circle with this guy, and then you have to wait for another punishment attack to appear, and then you SS backwards and you will switch place with this cutter guy. Because it's hard mode as a cursor, this guy were a cursor, the blade dancer were a cursor. You can't actually share this purple lightning saving this cutter guy here. So if you enter that circle, you will actually die. So make sure you stand far away and don't share this line. Only the baiter or the other teammates who hasn't done any other special role can share the saving line or the purple kind of cutting line with this cutter guy here in middle. So you stun the boss or CC the boss with KD or anything, something, and we have a good communication, so we just stand, we know where we will be. This little guy, the cursor is actually being far away, so he won't get this purple circle sharing with us. Bam. Now that we are connected, we have to wait for this punishment attack that appears. When it appears on this, in this case, the next attack that is going to hurt us is here in the middle. So you have to wait for this to stand here a few milliseconds, and then you both have to SS away. This will actually be a safe zone. If you have waited long enough for the timing, this will actually be a safe zone, and this will be the red zone that it's going to hurt. So if you SS backwards, you will both switch position and you will be in a safe spot, both of you. So there we go. Now you see that the red darkish area disappeared and the red one is actually appearing here. So the timing with the S's was perfect because we are both in this clean, open, safe zone area. Switch position. And this attack that the boss do is iframed with either freeze or Hongmoon blocked on any kind of way for the teammates because it's a room-wide one. And we get a Hongwen block for it, and now it's going back to normal rotation. But since we DPS the boss a little bit too much, the mechanic is already happening again. So what you have to think about is the red circle again. He is jumping to mid, so it's a punishment attack. So you just step forward as a range, or you can SS backwards because it's an iframe. You can iframe that attack if you want to get the cursor mark. Let's say you want to get the cursor mark. But now we have the Blade Dancer getting the curse. So he's furthest away. I'm going mid. And we will all get pulled again to mid by this attack. And you will see that the dark pool has appeared. And you have to get ready for the 180 attack that is created by the cursor again. I F-roll backwards because I want to evade this red attack here in mid. I always take this as a safe spot. I'm too far away from it. I have to either be left or right side of this black pool. And I will know now that do I have to be here or do I have to be here? And now that this 180 area is happening, is appearing, I know that, oh, I can do my baiting roll over here. So that's why I'm standing. Now, in this case, we have done the first rotation of mechanics once before. On this circle, on this second phase, he will actually make me spawn 2 pools with tentacles instead of just 1 earlier. So it will be in total 3 of them. Make sure that you have a space between them so they don't overlap or you will wipe. And make sure that the third one here that you spawn is also not overlapping with the rest or this area. Bait these tentacles and wait for them to share their cutting line up here. They will do the cutting and baiter with just baiter tentacles. When they have cut it, they will SS backwards. In the cutter will switch position with the cursor. Cursor has to grab, step on these pools. And he will have to, and the cutter will have to bait these liners attack and create the new 180 attack that will appear afterwards. That one. And make sure that you get ready for a CC, which is the stun. Now you can see that in case we don't want our literal blade dancer, the cursor, to share the next purple saving line between for the cutter, we are actually have a good communication because we just get away from it. The pools appears like one here, one here, one here, and the cursor will grab them, step on them, one here and going backwards. So we know that if he always ends up here, our purple saving area can always be here because he won't move from that space. We share that line, wait for the punishment, wait a few seconds and SS backwards and we will switch position again. Iframe or Halmoon block or freeze this attack. And then we will start all over again with the punishment. He jumps to mid, just step inside. Cursor will get his mark. And he will pull us all in. I will SS backwards, evade this red attack here. Make this as your marker to where you're supposed to go. And also take a look at the cursor so you know, oh, is this area safe or not. And in this third phase, it's a little bit difficult because you know that the baiter will spawn the 3 circles. And when he has done that, they will actually do a cutting. When they have cutted the tentacles, the baiter can't be baiter again. Or well, he can be, but usually if you stand close to the boss, the furthest person will actually be the cutter. So the cutter will instantly get the beta roll again. I will show you about that later. It's a bit complicated because the cursor will switch spot with the cutter, and he has to step on the pools. And when he has stepped on the pools, the boss will instantly do some in the timings. He will like check which one is the furthest person, so he will get the beta mark on that person again, like really fast. So he would just skip a little bit. He doesn't wait for it. Now we can do here in the beginning, we can do this phase here with the spawning of the circles like normal, baiting, and they will also do the cutting like normal, sharing that line. But after the cutting, they switch place. There is no stunning phase happening. There is none of that. So what you do is wait for this little guy, the cursor, to step on the pools. You have to be close to the boss because he will look at the furthest person again, and instantly he will get the bait roll. So what happens now is the cutter who is inside here now has kind of gotten the cursor roll, and me as the baiter will actually do the cutting roll because someone has to share the cut line with the so-called second cursor, so we can actually cut the tentacles that spawns by the baiter right now. So here we go, instantly spawning, instantly getting the beta roll, and the tentacles going to spawn. So the person, we are 3 people, so someone has to do the role of cutting, and there is no one else because we don't have that much time to get into position. So I get the cutting roll, and he will get the cursor roll. So we will share that line, bam, and let's go for the cutting. And when we have cut it, the cursor guy here will have to step on the pulls, and the cutter guy who was cutting will switch position and like put the 180 uh, attack down here again. And now you can stun the boss in this phase. Now you can stun the boss after this cutting phase, or CC the boss. And of course, as usual, the one inside of the 180, the attack will have to be saved, so another purple circle sharing attack will land on this guy, on me, and someone has to save me from the safe side on the other side. So we have to share that line again. That's why I'm standing really close to the boss. And we didn't really reach that phase, but that's pretty much how you do it on this boss. It's a lot of stuff to think about, but if you don't have to do any of these roles, you just have to think about where to stand and when it the mechanics happens, like where to stand during the mechanics. And I will go through everything all over again with you guys, and let's see how, if you did get caught up in what I have been saying. It's a bit complicated, a lot of information, but yeah. Let's see here. Here in the beginning, just remember don't stand on this place because he would do a linear attack here, 45-degree away from it. Being close to that one, but wait for him to jump. That's the real punishment attack. He jumped, you can step forward so you don't get hurt by the punishment. Furthest person gets the cursor roll. Everyone will get pulled to mid. F roll backwards to evade this attack and make sure that this is your marker for where you're supposed to go to be safe. Furthest person will get the beta roll. Two tentacles. And make sure that if you're cutter and cursor, you stand close to each other on both sides, sharing that line, and the cutter will cut it. And let's say if you are not doing any of these roles, you're not baiter, you know when the baiting happens, stand close, you won't get the bait. And if you don't want to be a cutter, you just don't stand too close to the cursor, because the cursor was at this place, and when we spawn the tentacles we go from this place to this place and this place. So the cursor will always be here, sharing that line with the cutter, so they can cut it on this position. The same way the pools are spawned, the same way the cutting will happen. So if you're standing at this place and close to the boss, you'll make sure to never get the cutting share. SS backwards, they will switch position, and 180 bam attack again. Try to stun the boss and make sure you get close so you can share this circle, purple circle, so you can save the cutter from that 180. SS backwards when the punishment happens. I-frame this attack or home block it, and then attack rotation goes back to normal. He would jump to mid. Make sure you step forward a bit so you won't get hurt. Cursor got his marker. F roll, go to the pool, wherever it is. Cursor's over here, so you're on the safe side. Be close if you don't want to get the bait roll. Still be close if you don't want to be the bait roll. The baiter S is backwards, so you can still stay close, but where you're supposed to stand, it's over here. So you don't share this cutting line if you don't want to do cutting. The cursor has to step on all of them again, stun the boss the second time, and share this purple circle to save the cutter. Wait for this, and then S is backwards. Make this as a marker. Stand on this side if you don't want to get cutting or baiting, but still not be the furthest. Even though the pool is really close to the 180 here, it's still safe because the tentacles will be lured on this other side. Switching place again, cursor has to step on them, but here is the tricky part. The cursor, who is the furthest person, will get the baiter roll instantly. So if you don't want to get this roll, make sure that you are standing close to the boss all the time. And since this is the first pool that is spawned, the cutting will also happen at this place. So if you stand over here, you will make sure that you won't get the cutting roll. And then this is backwards. 180 there, and then stun the boss. Save the cutter by sharing this purple circle line, and you're good to go. So I know that there's a lot of information and a lot of stuff you have to think about, and if you don't have enough DPS, after this phase there is some kind of jumping attack that happens with this boss. But hopefully everyone has enough DPS by now, so that won't actually happen anymore. And if you do encounter that phase, it will just be a lot of jumping to the furthest person, and it's like punishment, but not in mid anymore. It will be punishment close to that furthest person instead. So I hope you liked the video, and if there are any questions or anything, just keep on asking them, or I can make a second video explaining a little bit more. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys soon.